is Jim Willems. I was the president of the Pope and Young Club from 2014 to 2020, and I'm currently on the board as the past president. I enjoy the club. It's been great to me. It's been a great experience, and I'm here to tell you about how technology affects fair chase over the decade from 2010 on. The Pope and Young Club has always been about fair chase. From our very beginning, it was about what's the most fair thing, the most fair way to hunt and keep it fair to the animal. And there's nothing more fair chase than hunting with a bow and arrow. And even though we started 60 years ago, we started with long bows and recurve bows and transitioned into using compound bows and all kinds of composite materials for not just bows but for arrows as well. Broadheads have changed, everything has changed. And one of the biggest challenges with an organization like the Pope and Young Club is what is fair chase and what is unfair. And with the advent of new technologies, we really are challenged with keeping our sport clean and fair. And you can just look at other sports like baseball with the introduction of anabolic steroids and how that affected that sport and how records changed and it gave the whole industry a black eye. And the Pope and Young Club, along with the Boone and Crockett Club, are really the only ones out there that can be the conscience of hunting, and Pope and Young is a conscience of bow hunting. So we're determined to keep bow hunting fair as much as possible, and with that we keep an eye out on these new technologies and help determine what is right and what is wrong. From about 2000 on, we have had to deal with new technologies almost on a daily basis on what is and what is not fair chase. And some of the items really make it unfair as far as fair hunting goes, and some don't. So we've had to take a look at all of that, and it takes us a lot of time and effort to determine what's good and bad, and it gives the club a bad name sometimes and it helps us out sometimes, but somebody has to do it and we're the only ones. So when I got involved with the club, we were hot and heavy dealing with electronic issues on bows and arrows. And for years our policy had been nothing electronic on a bow or an arrow. Otherwise, it doesn't qualify as fair chase. And then, of course, you have all kinds of devices that come out, and each individual device you have to consider, is it fair or is it not? And lighted nocks got to be real popular in 2000s, and along with bow-mounted cameras. But for the most part, it was lighted nocks, and especially with the television hunters, it is so much of a benefit for film, and it's a benefit to bow hunters as well. And like everything else, you have to have a second look at things and determine, does it affect fair chase? Really couldn't come up with any good reason why a lighted nock would affect fair chase. It's just another tool. So eventually we changed our rules to make an exception for that, and bow-mounted cameras, we changed that rule as well because a lot of people mount cameras on their bows. And another thing that came to light is we had an old-time bow hunter who was as fair chase as could be, and all of a sudden he realized that he had been hunting for years and not complying with our rules of fair chase because he strapped a watch to his bow so he knew what time it was and he knew when it was time to get out of the tree. Well, it was an electronic watch, and that made that bow not fair chase. So we have to be open-minded about some things and not give on others. But really what we're dealing with a lot today is the technologies and what is and is not fair chase. And most of it's common sense, but it is a huge challenge for the club. And we've made our mistakes in the past, but I think for the most part, we eventually get it right. The club had to deal with the new technologies related to the compound bow, and as the bow advanced, it made it easier to shoot, and some people in the club were concerned about what is and what is not fair. We went through a period of time where it went from 50% let off to roughly 60 to 65%, and some of the founders of the club said, that's getting out of hand, and they put the rule in that if it was over 65%, it didn't qualify as fair chase. And that just didn't work. Bows started coming out that were 70 and 75%, and of course the concern was that, when's it going to end? When's it going to end? And looking back, we probably shouldn't have fought that battle. Because it eventually ended. A really high let-off bow is just hard to shoot. So the bows today are what they are, and we changed our rule. We don't have any rule as far as maximum let off. Compound bow is a compound bow as long as it's handheld and drawn with your own power. Another real sore subject technology-wise that we've had to deal with recently is the cellular trail cameras. And over the years, we have tried to come together with Boone and Crockett where we have similar positions on everything. So if it qualifies for Pope and Young, it qualifies for Boone and Crockett. And recently, Boone and Crockett, well, not recently, for a while, Boone and Crockett had the policy of if you ever use a cellular trail cam and get a picture of a buck or whatever animal, it never qualifies for the book. And my position on was that's just unrealistic. I know a lot of people that use those cameras on their driveway for security, and you're telling me if a buck walks down the driveway on July 31st and you get a picture of him, and then you shoot him a mile away on November 1st, that it doesn't qualify? Those are the instances we really have to look at and determine what is and what is not fair. So when it comes to the use of cellular trail cameras, you really need to determine how are they used. Is it used to give you an unfair advantage to hunt the animal, or is it just used for a convenience? And personally, I don't use them. I decided some time ago that crosses the line of fair chase that I don't want to cross. But a lot of people do use them, and people can use them without affecting fair chase. And our policy is, unless you're using that camera to direct you to an animal basically in real time, then it's fine. If you're just using it to capture pictures and be able to see what's going on a daily basis, that's fine. But if you're using the cellular data as a buck is walking to a particular area and you say, oh, I got to go get in front of that buck, and you go get in front of that buck, that's really no difference than using a drone or using an aircraft or using many of the other things that we consider not to be fair chase and we ban to keep our sport clean and fair. Another issue that is becoming a bigger issue all the time, and it's really because some people just think they can't hunt without them, and that's the use of handhelds or wireless radios to guide a person into an animal during the stalk. And it's become really prevalent out west for particularly mule deer and sheep hunting. And it's really no different than using an airplane, which has been banned forever, using drones, which states don't allow that as well. But you're using the electronics to gain an advantage over the animal. And sadly, there's a whole bunch of hunters who simply will not hunt certain animals without having a radio in your ear. And it may be legal in states to do that, but you have to keep in mind that if you're using a device that is considered not fair chase by Boone and Crockett and the Pope and Young Club, you kill a new world record. That animal may not ever be a new world record because you were violating the rules of fair chase. So, even though the technology has been a real issue in the past 10 to 20 years, we have faced them head on, one item at a time, and I think for the most part we've done a good job in dealing with it and helping hunters understand what is fair and what is not fair chase.